Hello everyone. I know it's been a very long time, but I'm finally back to complete this past life series, and today we are going to be focusing on Jupiter slash Sagittarius in the 12th house. Quickly, before I just go straight into the Greek mythology of how or the Greek mythology as well as the representation of Jupiter is, before I go into that, I just want to say that after this series, I'm going to start talking more so about the aspects. So for those who are not aware of what aspects are, which I assume that a great amount of you that are researching this probably do, but for those who are new, it's basically a snapshot of your natal chart when you were born. And on that day that you were born, there are planets in the sky interacting with one another, you know, making conjunctions, trines, squares, blah, blah, blah. I'll explain that in another video because I don't want to make this too long. But it was basically when the planets were communicating with each other when you were born on that day, whatever day it was, okay? And these interactions are really important because it is showing not only like the area where it's happening, the houses, we'll get into that another day, but it's showing you whether those planets get along and how that affects how you emotionally or actively, physically respond, intellectually respond, because each planet represents something different. So whatever those planets represent and whatever conversation they're having is going to be focusing in on those parts that represent each planet. And either they get along very well and you display these things in a very smooth manner, or there can be some tension and some friction, which isn't always bad, isn't bad at all in my personal opinion. I feel like the harder aspects on your chart promote you to do more, because it feels like this itch that just won't go away, that you keep scratching. Whereas an easier aspect is this thing that, oh yeah, I have this, but you don't really care too much about it because it's just come so naturally to you, so you don't hone in on it further. But we'll get into that another day. I just want to make it known that I want to talk more about aspects because I'm having a very difficult time finding research on a lot of them myself. So I figure while I'm on this astrology journey and I'm getting better and stronger and becoming more of an expert at this, I may as well just start to speak to you guys about these things as well, because I'm presuming you want to see this information and you want to understand yourself better, and that's just the entire point and reason that we're here. So I thought I was going to actually start this off talking about Zeus, but because he is such an easy person to talk about, because we always hear about Zeus and how like slutty and kind of mean he is, we always hear about that. So let's just get into a quick little blip about how Sag came to be. So Sag was an archer that came from the land of, I think, Ixium. I'll place it here in the video. But he was the only warrior, only man that actually went after and lusted after Zeus's wife, Hera, and pursued her. Zeus didn't like this, so Zeus, of course, coming up with his magical whatever nonsense, creates a cloud that looks just like Hera, and he doesn't realize that it's not actually Hera. Goes to the cloud, makes love to the cloud, and the cloud now gives birth to Centaurus, which was half man, half centaur. I could get more into that, but I don't want to make this video too long, like I always say, because the Sag story, there were multiple stories that I found on Sag and Jupiter, so it was kind of hard to decide which ones I wanted to get into. But that was interesting, and I just thought it was interesting mostly because of how shady and like mean Zeus is. Because when we talk about the planet Jupiter and the sign of Sagittarius, people tend to only focus in on the positives, because Jupiter as a planet, like I said in my Mercury Talks Jupiter Walks video, Jupiter is represented to be like just a planet strictly about good luck and expansion, growth, philosophy, which is all great, and it is a great planet, but that shadow side is very interesting. So that's why I wanted to get into Zeus as well. Cool. Sorry if it looks a little weird. I had to put in a new battery and change something up. But yeah, I hope it looks okay. Anyway, back to Zeus. Yes, I think I was saying that I feel like people are always talking about the benefits of Jupiter because it's such a great planet, and people are always talking about the good luck it brings and traveling and blah blah blah, but they don't really combine it all together, and like the reasoning behind it's associated with travel and the reasoning behind the philosophical and the blah 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 blah. So Zeus is such a great example as far as Jupiter, or as far as explaining Jupiter and Sag placements go, because just like Taurus and Libra, Sagittarius is very hedonistic as well. Zeus is very hedonistic. You know, he has multiple affairs, extramarital affairs. He has multiple children, you know, stepping out constantly on his wife. He is always in the mood for drink and laughter and play and exploration. You know, that's what Jupiter represents. It's expansion. It's exploring. But the thing is that I find people tend to connect Taurus and Libra more to hedonism and more to indulgence, because I feel like it's just so blatant with them and so in your face and obvious and everybody can see it. And you can with Sag too, but because Sag is considered the life of the party, it's like they're really good at internalizing everything and not really showing the darker sides of them. It always comes out more so in like I'm here to help, I'm in a godly manner. And a lot of the times, like a Zeus, they really do believe that they have greatness to give to the world and have so many different truths and ideologies to share with everyone. But every now and again, and this is why Sagittarius, a shadow side of a Sag, is considered a cult member. Every now and again, if the Sag doesn't get its way, because like I keep saying, it's a benevolent planet, it's a good planet, so it's used to getting its way. If it doesn't get its way, then it can be dogmatic, it can be very my way or the highway, it can be very cult-like. Like if you don't agree with what I'm saying, then you shouldn't be here, which is why it's the shadow side. It's important that we mention that this is a shadow side of this sign, because in this planet, because typically a Sag knows that life isn't black and white, that there's a lot of gray. But it's interesting to see like a Sag that is not aware of themselves having these random moments where just because they may like this celebrity or just because they strongly connect for whatever reason to this ideology, everybody needs to believe this. And if they don't, then they're a bad person. That's very interesting. But before I like completely lose my train of thought, yeah, Zeus is really important when it comes to that. When it comes to the hedonistic aspect, Zeus and Jupiter is not just a god, a benevolent god that is going to give you whatever that you want. It can also give you what you want to the point where you realize it was never what you really wanted. Unlike Saturn, which is very big on you need to work hard for this, I'm going to delay this, there are restrictions in order for this to work the way that we need this to work. Very father, very authoritative. Unlike that, Jupiter is not necessarily going to be like that. It's still going to give off this kind of fatherly vibe, which is why I was kind of shocked that Zeus wasn't more related to like the sun. But Jupiter is a fatherly vibe as well. It's just the type of father that will allow you to discover it for yourself. They're not going to set a bunch of rules, you know? So what I'm trying to say is that no matter where Jupiter sits on your chart, that is going to be the area of your life where there's going to be lots of expansion, lots of growth, lots of truth learning, lots of goodness, but maybe not goodness and good luck in the way that you see fit or what you think is good luck. But it's going to grant you whatever, no matter what it's doing, no matter where it is on your chart, it's going to grant you that very thing, for better or for worse. Wherever Jupiter is, it's also just going to require you as a person to grow, to expand your mind, to expand your thoughts and your ideals, to explore things that you probably never would have thought you would have explored had you not had this placement. And another thing, because I mentioned this in my Mercury Talks Jupiter Walks video, which I will place the link here. I mentioned in that video how something that Gemini and Sagittarius have in common is that they can really like get in a groove of being creative, of doing this research, of really being into a particular project. But something that they both struggle with is losing focus because something else draws their attention. And that's very much Sagittarius Jupiter energy, because something that I also mentioned in that previous video, again, I'll place the link, is that Sag is always connected with being uncommittal, being a player almost. But I wouldn't even necessarily call it that anymore. Like, yeah, if you're dealing with somebody who's more dark-sided, obviously they're just being a player, they're gross, whatever. But I don't think that it's always like that. It's not always stemming from that. I find that the problem is that they're truth seekers. Sag and Jupiter placements, they're truth seekers, they're explorers. They want freedom, but not necessarily freedom where they're alone. They want you to explore with them. They want you to be as excited and to have a zest for life with them. And if you're not, if you literally feel like an anchor that is going to pull them down and not explore and engage with them and not really put yourself out there and enjoy life to the fullest, it's going to be very easy for them to completely detach and go somewhere else, because just like Zeus, there's always a thirst for more. Not just to have it like a Taurus, not just to be possessive of it, or not just to feel a sense of validation when you communicate in partnership and codependency like Libra. It's not about that. It's literally about finding what this life means and what it can provide for me, what is all here. And I think that's why Jupiter also rules Pisces, because Pisces, I think we are emotional truth seekers. Sag can be emotional truth seekers too, but everything is more so like philosophical, whereas with Pisces, it's much deeper. It's like trying to reconnect with the universe that is not physically what we see, things outside of Earth. The point that I'm making is that Sag and Pisces both have an understanding, or come to have the understanding as life goes on, that there are multiple truths. There aren't just one truth for each topic or each oppressive state or group. No matter what the topic, there tend to be multiple truths, and that can be a really, really hard thing for most people in the world, especially somebody like a Taurus who hates change. They have a really hard time grasping and understanding. We have a very I'm saying we because I'm a Pisces. We, Sagittarius and Pisces, have a very great understanding of how complex this life is and how most of the world is gray. But again, let me just go back into my final points when it comes to Zeus and just Jupiter. And anyway, because I'm like mixing this all in. It's been a while, so please bear with me in this video. But aside from me mentioning the having a hard time finishing with a project, veering off because something else is grabbing your attention, wherever Jupiter is on your chart is not only, like I mentioned, gonna bring good luck, possibly going to bring expansion and growth, it is also the area in your life where you're seeking God. You're seeking something greater than yourself, which is pretty much what I've been saying, but I feel like it's better to express it in this sense, because I need to stress that a Sagittarius hedonism isn't really related to what a Taurus's hedonism is. It's not just for the sensuality of it, or because it feels good or tastes good, or it brings me a sense of safety. It's about, sorry, I saw somebody at my window. It's literally about them seeking truth, seeking what this world means to them and why it means it, or why are things the way that they are. It's deeper, it's more intellectual versus physical and sensual. Okay, so now that I slightly got into the Greek mythology and definitely got into Jupiter and Sag as placements, now we are going to just focus in on the placement that this video is for, which is Jupiter in the 12th house, baby. All right, I'm done. Okay, Jupiter in the 12th house. So with all my other videos, by now, I'm hoping you know by now, but I'll quickly go over it, what the 12th house represents. And again, the 12th house is ruled by Pisces. Pisces is ruled by Neptune and Jupiter. So Jupiter in the 12th house, like this is a good placement. This is because both Pisces and Sag are ruled by Jupiter. So technically it's kind of in a home place, and it can be confusing figuring out like what the benefits of this placement is, because the 12th house is associated with things that are hidden, not in the 8th house way, but in a more elusive way because of Neptune, you know, a very foggy way. It is also the house that represents like hidden enemies. It is also the house, like I've said before, of imprisonment and institutionalization. The gooder parts of the 12th house involve like glamour and creativity and unconditional love. But you know, it also speaks to the Piscean's ability to be psychic. It's the house that types into, you know, psychic ability, otherworld stuff, even something like sleep paralysis, things of that nature, drugs, anything that is involving escapism is very much this house. And because of the psychic nature, it can also represent like guardian angels and like people and spirits watching over you. And I bring that up because Jupiter in this house can really be beneficial in regards to that. Like currently, I'm talking about transit right now. I currently have Jupiter transiting my 12th house, and it basically is insinuating that I am protected right now, that I am for this year, because Jupiter transits for a year in each sign. For a year, there's going to be a sense of I'm protected, I'm taken care of. There's like an otherworldly thing that is making sure that I'm all right. And that's what this placement is. When you have Jupiter in the 12th house, and anything in regards to the 12th house, even something like being imprisoned could actually end up being a good thing. Like a bad thing that you're being imprisoned, but maybe when you're in that prison or you're in that institution, you're not having as bad of a time as everyone else. And I don't mean like, oh, the guards are leaving me alone and they're feeding me great food, even though that could be a part of it depending on your aspects and stuff, but more so of like you develop a certain otherworldly idealism, a certain understanding, you learn deeply about yourself. And you can even do something as simple as like take up a trade, a religion, a creative project while you're in that institution. Like I don't even know if he has this placement, but this is the first thing that comes to my mind. Is like Malcolm X. If he were to have Jupiter in his 12th house, it would make sense. Or if maybe Jupiter was transiting his 12th house while he was in jail. While he was in jail, he cleaned up his life. He changed who he was. He became, you know, a part of the Nation of Islam, which I have my mixed feelings about. But he developed a real sense of self and became a better man in his own way. You know, he obviously still had his flaws, but that gives me very Jupiter in the 12th house vibes and energy. Like, yeah, he was in jail, but one, he got out. That's another thing that I recognize with this placement, is that you can be institutionalized and maybe your time is cut in half or cut even shorter than that because of good behavior. But beyond that, in an astrological sense, you were just protected in that way. You know, this institution wasn't meant to crumble you. It was meant to build you up. So the luck that is associated with Jupiter being in the 12th house is less so about the physical form, and it's more so about developing this internal faith, internal belief, this natural optimism that isn't like fake or like forced positivity or forced optimism, but just this sense of clarity, this sense that everything's going to be all right. That is what this is giving you, versus the physical sense. Like, and when I say physical sense, I mean, like for me, I was born with Jupiter in whole sign. I was born with Jupiter in my 4th house, Placidus 5th house. For those who understand that, comment down below. But if we're going to focus on the 4th house, which is easier, well, they're both easy placements. They're good placements, actually. And I see it so well. Like my Jupiter in the 4th house whole sign is so literal, because whole signs represent more so of the whole sign system, and the whole sign chart represents more so of what you can actually see. And Placidus is more so the psychological effects, and I more so follow tropical Placidus. I love evolutionary astrology, and that's kind of where I'm veering off towards. Love Vedic too, but whatever. Any other systems can be used. But I have Jupiter in my 4th house in whole sign, and I have the 4th house represents families, represents heritage, your roots, the mom, anything associated with the home, you know, like comfort food and stuff like that. That's the 4th house, and my Jupiter is there. So I have a big family, like a huge family, and I always have someone or something to fall back on. It's not as strong because my Jupiter is in Virgo, which is in its detriment. It's not in its good spot there. But no matter what, I always know that I have my family. I always have somebody to look out for me. Even right now, like as I'm saving up money to get my own place and blah, 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 I'm living with family, and I'm blessed to have that in my life. And then if we talk about Jupiter in the 5th house, the physical, what you can see with that, like my creativity, maybe when I have children, the luck will be shown through them, something like that. But that's what that means in the physical sense. But this is in the 12th house. Things that you can't see, it's things that you feel, and things that are all internal, because that is what Pisces is all about, the emotions. So even though it doesn't necessarily bring the physical luck, it's still really great luck, to be completely honest. Luck that transcends the physical, I think, is amazing. And you know, being protected by spirits, like at all times for the most part, like that's really lucky to me, in my personal opinion. And you know, for those who have this placement and may have a difficult time tapping into this luck, this expansion, it probably would be best if you meditated more, even got into prayer, art, anything that speaks to your soul, that is allowing you to express anything that you feel, your fears, your hopes, your dreams, whatever, in a healthy manner, will probably be extremely beneficial to you and bring you a lot more blessings and luck. I have like notes written down right here because I'm looking to see what else I said. And I said the negative side of finding the inner truth that I talked about earlier can be overindulgence, hypocrisy, manic episodes, dogmatic, self-righteousness. All of these things are the shadow side of a Sag placement, of a Jupiter placement. Because like I said earlier, my way or the highway, it's a benefic planet, so it's used to getting its way. And that can be terrible at times. And especially with the self-righteousness, the I'm intelligent, I know everything. It's funny because there are a few signs that express this. I think they are Gemini. I think they are Libra at times, Aquarius, and Sag. Yeah, I would say if there's any, like, yeah, whatever. There are other placements too. Like all the signs in one way or another think that they just know everything, I feel like, in regards to whatever. But that self-righteousness, man, because it's the same thing with Pisces. We can be really self-righteous and view ourselves as a god. Sagittarius do the same thing, very black and white as well. But like I said, because they're associated with such a popular planet, it doesn't come across in the same ways that it does for other signs. So a lot of people can miss that, but I always peep it. I always peep it, especially when, because with Sagittarius, I tend to agree with them a lot, and then there will be that one thing where they'll say something really, really stupid, or agree with somebody who's really, really stupid, that completely, like again, hypocrisy. They'll be complete hypocrites, but the dark-sided Sag won't realize that they're being a hypocrite, and they'll still just be sticking to their hypocrisy. Whereas a light-sided Sag will know that there are two truths and that they believe in two things. And that's why, that's honestly, as a Pisces, that's one of my favorite phrases, is that two things can be true at the same time. That was probably one of the best things that I ever learned, because people, again, think in this black and white sense, but that's not a Jupiterian thing, if I'm saying that correctly. Sorry, my aunt just came in, so I'm going to try to finish this up really quickly. But the last thing that I want to say before I get into the past lives section is that career-wise, they can probably be really good counselors, healers, psychics, like I was saying earlier. That is, I feel like this is definitely one of those big planets this one of those big placements, Jupiter in the 12th house, that psychic ability can really be helpful. And even if you don't want to be a psychic yourself, you probably are the type of person that if you really wanted to and you really honed in on meditation and your craft, you could probably possibly like speak to, you know, other entities, which I think is scary but also really, really cool. And another really great positive is that their hope and their hopefulness can really inspire and help the others around them, which I think is really beautiful. And I think this year, as I'm experiencing this transit, that's kind of what I want to do. I want to inspire and I want to spread goodness, because I'm in a state in my life where I really, again, I'm focusing on my happiness and what I like to do, which is why I'm doing these videos again, and what I think I'm good at, and I'm gonna get better as I keep doing it. So yeah. So with this past life placement, like I've been saying this entire video, Jupiter is a good planet, so the karma won't be so severe, and it's typically, based on the research that I've done, associated apparently with unintentional carelessness. And that can be in many forms, in many ways, because Sag is really known for being careless. But Sag in the 12th house, past life, like I said, probably caused an accident or caused a situation that blew out of proportion, expanded more than it should have, biting off more than you can chew, whatever have you, and it causing a big catastrophe. So in this life, you're probably going to have certain placements that are going to cause you to focus in more on being responsible and less careless, which is true, because I used to date a Sag, and he has a Capricorn Venus, a Scorpio Moon, and a Scorpio Mercury. So he's not as careless with his words. He's very good at private. But he's still careless. Don't get it twisted. He's still careless, and he has gotten into multiple car accidents, which he's fine. Like he's also had situations with the law that he's been lucky in regards to receiving help and what have you. He's not a bad person, by the way. So I think. So my experience for the most part was. But yeah, in this life, that's pretty much it. Like, I feel like this was the easiest karmic tie that I received with this placement, is that they just got to work on being more responsible, probably less self-righteous as well. And that's important with this placement as well. Side note, sidebar, it's important with the placement of Pisces and Sag, is not just not being self-righteous for the sake of not being self-righteous, not just because nobody really likes a self-righteous prick, so that's obviously a part of it, but also not wanting to be self-righteous so that you don't block the blessing of learning from other people and growing and expanding, because that's why that is a shadow side associated with these two signs, is because that they're not allowing themselves to be open to what they're supposed to be open to, like, which is pretty much everything, since it's all about expansion, and with Pisces it's all about merging with the other world, whatever, blah blah blah. Anyway, that is all that I have. I really do apologize if that was all over the place, but I'm really trying to finish this at a reasonable time, and make my editing not as hard when I finally put this up. But yeah, I'm happy that I did this. I will be back next week with another video, and it will be Capricorn in the 12th house, which I bet is going to be really, really good, really, really interesting when I researched that. But yeah, I'm going to make these videos more regular. I'm serious this time, because like I'm literally bored with life right now. And I just hope that you guys enjoy the rest of this series and stay tuned for what I have cooked up in the near future. So tune in next time. Thanks for watching now, and I'll see you in my next video.